So this is, what did they label this? I don't know, what
Developing a
Secrets to Success in Narnia or something? I don't know. What are they?
Developing a mindset for success.
Mindset for success. Yeah, we'll cover that too.
mindset, developing
So-
a mindset for success.
Yeah, exactly, something like that. That's what we're going to be covering today. So this is part 1 and 2. I wanted to do a 2-part session because I wanted to make sure that I did the first part before the first round of tests, and I wanted the second part after the first round of tests. I highly suggest you come in the second part. I have something, because a little bit about myself before we go into that. My name is Anthony DeBruin. I served in the Marine Corps for about 10 years. I started out in 2006. I graduated in 2016. I got out in 2016. And I've been coming to ODU ever since. I had a 3.97 GPA until last semester when I lost my motivation for coming to college. I actually went to Dr. Metzger because I was going to drop the honors college, so I didn't really see any really merit in it because I just didn't care anymore. And that's when we started talking about teaching a workshop and getting back into the swing of things, and that's why I'm here. And because I had a lot of different experiences, not necessarily in the military, but also in life. Like I was 19 when I joined the military. I had a lot of mental issues. I still do. I suffer from depression, anxiety, and anger management more than I want to share with you guys. And I've done drugs. I've actually was admitted. I was an inpatient for alcohol rehab. So I had a lot of issues with alcohol when I was younger, and there's so many things that I've had to go through that have not been pleasant whatsoever. But because of all of those things, I was actually selected by my command to go to New Orleans and party for 2 weeks, but also to become a master trainer, which is a person who teaches other people how to teach other people, like the teacher of your teachers, pretty much. I became a master trainer in suicide, stress, alcohol, drugs, child abuse, and I actually traveled across the country when I was in the Marine Corps and taught lectures on all of those subjects and more to commands, and I trained other people how to get around these issues, how to deal with them, and who they can go to in order to get the help that they need if they need it. And with that, with all the things that I've learned, I've led, trained, mentored hundreds of Marines. Not necessarily, just in their job aspect, but also in the life aspect as well. How to live, how to be a functioning adult. And this workshop isn't for, hey, just go and do what you got to do what you're told, because that's one of the. If you want to join the military and be successful, you do what you're told, when you're told, how you're told, because you're told. That's the secret. Until you pick up rank and then you start to be able to think on your own. But until that time, you're just bitch or whatever. But excuse my German, all right? But so this lecture, I also want it to be, sort of like a guided discussion as well. I want your input because I know a lot, but also so do all of you. And this isn't gonna, everyone knows, everyone here is in the honors college, everyone knows, oh, you need to study, you need to do well on tests, you need to do what your teachers say, you need to do what your parents say, don't do drugs, don't drink if you're not 21. whatever. You know, understand what you have to do. Like one of the worst, I think the worst things that my parents ever told me when I was like, hey, can I do this? Hey, can I do that? They told me, do what you know is right. I trust you to do what you know is right. And I'm like, that sucks. Because now it's my problem. But that's what we're going to go into is not necessarily what's right and what's wrong. It's what works. Maybe not for me, maybe for you. More on the psychological and mental aspect of success. How to keep that motivation in order to still be here and do what you need to do. How many of you do not live with your parents?
Like here.
Yeah, how many live here? Okay, cool. So, I mean, how many of you are freshmen that also live here? Okay, so it's a different atmosphere, right? You know, who's been to a party? Yeah. Was it fun?
No.
You know, well, the thing is that everything in moderation. All right, you can still have fun. College, you know, say college is time to experiment. Depends. Do what you want to do to learn. All right. Don't make mistakes on purpose. Make mistakes on accident, but try to prevent those mistakes from, you know, happening in the first place. The definition of maturity, at least in my opinion, is a person that acts on their experiences versus their feelings. Because if you make a decision based on hate, anger, love, lust, whatever the other adjectives are, I'm not good at English. You know, it's usually not going to end well. But if you weigh your options and, you know, understand that I saw, you know, Rachel over here. Are there any Rachels over here? Good. I saw Rachel, figurative Rachel over here, and I saw that she, you know, tripped over that rock and fell on her face, and now she broke her teeth and has surgery and her jaw's wired shut. It's an extreme thing, but, you know, using that as an example of maybe more potentially serious things. You know, understanding what has happened to someone else so that it doesn't happen to you. That is a sign of maturity. Now, first module that we're going to go through, they made me put modules. The first one that we're going to be going through is the mindset module. Like, success. What in your mind is success? In my mind, the first thing is having a positive mindset. Because, you know, the glass is half empty, no one really wants to be around those people. You know, when you come here to learn, when you come here to try and get a good education, to get a better job, you want to be around people who are like yourself. Hopefully that's good people. I'm just saying. But you want to surround yourself with people that have a positive mindset. Because whenever someone comes up to me like, hey, can we do this? My answer is not no. My answer is let's look into it. Let's see what we can do. And that's the mindset that you should have if you want to be successful. Your first impulse should never be no. Your first words should never be no. Unless it's something stupid like, let's go kill this guy. And obviously no. But when someone comes to you for help, when someone comes to you for advice, or, you know, wants to try and do something, your first thing you should do is never say no. Try and understand what's going on so that you can potentially say yes. Or like, hey, like one thing that we're doing is that I'm a veteran, obviously. I work at a seminar, and we're going to be throwing a social event for the other veterans on campus. And a lot of people are like, why would we do that? Why wouldn't we? If you want to go and do something, if you want to organize an event. If you want to go play volleyball while listening to, you know, disco music in the center of that quad area, cool. Find out how you can do it. You know, don't ever say no initially. Try to find out different ways you can do things. That's having a positive mindset, but also being open to different things. Because there are many different, you know, ways to skin a cat. I've heard that phrase. You know, there's more than one path to success. And that path can be different for every single person in this room. You can do one thing and you can do something else and still reach your goals. But one thing that I see a lot of people fail with is that they try something and it doesn't work and then they stop. You know, you can't stop trying different things. You gotta continue going. You know, Thomas Edison, what was the quote? Anyone, who knows the quote for Thomas Edison with the damn light bulb? How many times he failed? Like 1,099? Like, he failed a lot, but he finally succeeded one time. I've got a horrible memory, I'm sorry. But that's my point. Like, if you stop after your first failure, everyone's gonna fail. Like, you know, who in here has failed at some point? Well, good, I have not. I'm just saying.
Let's go.
Hey, you know what? It is statistically possible. It is statistically possible so that if you put all of your laundry into the dryer, turn it on, it is statistically possible for you to open up after that 50 minutes and all of your clothes are folded neatly and ready to be put away. It's possible. The dryer throws things, it's pretty much random, but it's possible. If that's possible, there could be someone who's just lucky as hell and just got everything they ever wanted in life. That's not me. But that's what I'm talking about, positive mindset, right? It's possible for humanity to be able to exist on this planet. You know, the Earth has to be a certain distance away from the sun, has to be of a certain age, the sun has to be of a certain age, and all of those factors going in together in the proper orbit. You know, for the long enough amount of time for algae and biology to start growing. Who's going for biology? Any biology majors? You'll learn about that. I'm electrical engineering. It's probably just coming out my ass. So does anyone have any tips, any ideas about what having a positive mindset looks like? Other than the things I've said. What's up?
So, I play fighting games, and how many other people play like any game at all? Who's a gamer? Come on, gamers rise up. So, in fighting games, usually the mindset is to play to win. You're always striving for that victory screen, but you don't start winning thousands of dollars at major tournaments. You start by losing. So the advice I give to lower level players and clubmen here is not to play to win, but rather play to improve. So in the game, there's many situations where you can either win or lose, but in the process of those situations, you can try different things. So if this option works in this situation, then try another option in that situation, see if it works. You can keep experimenting, and eventually it will rise to the top. That's my 2 cents.
Who's ever failed the test? I hate you.
Like,
I can say that she's my neighbor.
Or a
Just fail the test.
Wait, all the way?
I failed my midterm in an honors college class. No. No. You know, and apparently half the class failed too. Half the class of an honors college class of 12 students failed the midterm. Alright? And there were, I believe, 2 people that dropped out right then. They're like, nope, I'm not letting this hit my GPA. And to be honest, it was a kick right in the man parts, you know. And yeah, I tried. I didn't know what I did wrong, and I went and spoke to my teacher and understood why she graded me like she did. And you know, for a long time, for a couple of days, I was really pissed just at the world, and I had to get myself out of it. I had to get out of that mindset and continue. Like, I owned it, and I got a 92 on my final at the end of the class. I fixed everything that I messed up, and I corrected my deficiencies. It is, to this day, the only C I've ever gotten in college, and a C+. Right? So, having a positive mindset, and I'm not saying to drop the class was a bad thing. Yeah, I really am. You can make your own decisions, right? It's up to you to make your own decisions. Me personally, the reason I didn't drop the class, I mean, quite frankly, I didn't want to take the class over again to begin with, but is that I wanted to do better. I wanted to prove that I could fix my mistakes, learn from them, and just outperform on everything else. And that's my way of doing it. That's my way of, I want to face it. I don't want to run away from it. I want to face it. I want to punch it in the face. That's me, right? That's what I view positive mindset being like. Rolling with the punches. That's one thing. That's one other thing I did. Yeah. So, who's ever had a bad thing happen to them in life? Yeah. Who has ever had something happen to you that you thought you were the only person in all of history to have this happen to you? Was it true? Probably not.
I broke my foot by skipping, so.
You know, before they invented shoes and paved roads, I'm pretty sure there was some kid somewhere. Who else raised their hand? You take it back. My point is that the odds are astronomical, you know, that anything you are going through, anything that has happened to you, anything that you've gone through, that you are not alone in this world. And that is a very profound thing, in my opinion. Understanding that it is okay to feel as you feel whenever something happens, right? You know, a lot of times when you strive for success, when you have to get that A+, you have to get that grade, you have to perform to a certain extent, sometimes parts of you get lost in the mix, right? And there are times when you might feel under tremendous amounts of pressure in order to do certain things or perform certain things. And personally, it's okay to feel that way. And I think it's okay that all of you understand that it is okay to feel that way. Because, you know, all throughout history, we've had many people do many things, some of them smart, some of them not, and feel different things, perform different acts, and invent different things. You know, having that roll with the punches attitude, and first understand that it's okay to feel sad if you fail a test. It's okay to just feel alienated when you have relationship issues and other areas of your life. Having someone to talk to, even if it's yourself, if you look in the mirror and talk to yourself, that kind of person, whatever, I don't judge. You know, understanding that it's okay to feel like that is one of the most important things you could ever tell someone. Because when I used to counsel people, not in a bad way, in a good way, I used to help people who have been sexually assaulted. When I used to help people who had thoughts of suicide or just depression in general, one of the first things I tell them is that it is okay to feel that way, because that's the truth. You know, the only way to feel better about whatever is going on in your life is to first face it and try and work through it. And if you can't work through it on your own, that's fine. That also is okay, because there are different ways in which you can get help if you need it. And that's what I mean by rolling with the punches, is that there are going to be times when life is going to knock you down, and you can bounce back. And sometimes you need help. Sometimes I need help. I got help multiple times. I was anger management. Come on. They told me to smoke more. I don't smoke anymore, and I've gotten over it, all right? I'm just saying. You know, there are different ways to deal with different situations, and it's up to you to try and find the best ways that you can, but that also goes back to maturity. You know, what do you think is the right way, and what do you think is the wrong way? It's okay to ask for help. And that is with tests as well, with school. You know, if you're having issues, if you don't understand something, raise your hand. Admit, I have no idea what the hell you just said. Can you go back over that again? I do it all the time. My classmates laugh at me. You were there.
I was there.
You know, and that's one way to learn. That's one way to do what you need to do. Does anyone have, give me an example of that. Oh yeah, I'm calling you out. Rolling with the punches. Give me an example. Going with the flow? What's an example?
Well, I don't know, Dad, he would always say, try and have a short-term memory. Because I'm like big into tennis, so when I'm on the court, and like I'm starting to lose, and I just think about how I'm losing so badly. He's like, just have a short-term memory, actually, so you can just keep on going and don't look back.
I
That's an example.
had a friend that what she did, when she just wanted to forget something, she'd go, "Etch a sketch."
Draw something, shake it,
It's a good way.
Like,
So
Etch a
old
sketch.
school, yeah.
That's what she would do. And you know what? I do that too, because it makes you laugh. And it makes you forget. So that might be something you could take from this. You just don't say it out loud.
Yes.
No, I used to be a CPR instructor, and one of the things when you're giving CPR and you're doing the proper, you have a certain pace that you're trying to follow. One of the songs that has the pace is "Another One Bites the Dust."
Oh, I didn't remember that one.
Yeah, they have "Staying Alive," that works too, but also "Another One Bites the Dust." And I was telling all my guys, I'm like, you know, it works, but just don't sing it out loud.
Staying Alive's actually a little bit too slow for the YMCA certification.
Yeah. So, the next thing I have to finish up this module is it's only 5:30.
I'm not.
It's only 5:30. Okay. Yeah, it's 4:30. Shit. I forgot I'm being recorded. No, I'm doing this on my own because my little brother is for you, Kyle. Little bastard. I mean, my little brother is starting college just as you guys, and it's his first semester as well. So I wanted to make sure to give him a couple words of advice or push him out because it's his first time away from mom and dad. I wanted to make sure that, you know, I could at least help him out as much as I could. Hopefully it doesn't go any further than that. No, the last thing I have was understanding that everyone fails eventually and sometimes more than once. And that's something I kind of covered a little bit, but I want to go into more depth about. Is that this is about mentally preparing yourself. Right? Who's ever heard of the rule of threes? Like bad things that happen in threes. Oh yeah,
That's real.
it is.
That's real.
It's a real thing. I got hit when I was driving. I was in my car and I got hit by a person, and then someone knocked over my motorcycle. Yep, that was a very bad day. And then I lost my wallet. Yeah, it was a very crappy week. But I mean, with that, with understanding, failure is such a nasty word to say. Who's a different word? Who's a different word?
My dad, he always says, like, instead of sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, he says sometimes you win and sometimes you learn.
I like that. I like that. Who's ever played a sport? Yeah, finally, that was everyone. Who's ever lost a game? Cool. All right, we're good. So, do you learn more from failure? Or do you learn more from success?
Failures, yeah, correct.
Yeah, you remember. I used to wrestle. I do a lot of martial arts. It doesn't look like it. But that's one thing. Like it was two nights ago. I was doing some kung fu, and I started to think too much. I started to overthink my issues. We were going at it. We're doing just basic blocks and strikes, and I started to think too much instead of just doing what I needed to do. And I ended up taking an elbow directly to my forearm. And I couldn't feel my hand for about 5 minutes. And that's a kick in the face that sometimes you learn more from failure than you do from success. But how you learn is also an interesting aspect itself. Is that you don't necessarily need to learn from your failures. You can learn from other people's failures. You can learn to not trip over a rock and break your face. You can learn not to break your ankle skipping.
So bad. This was in high school. Not even when I was little.
I mean, I learned never again to make Super Bowl bets. Oh yeah. I was in high school in heels and a dress, shaved legs, makeup, wig. Yeah, walking into wrestling practice. Yeah, as a woman. You learn from failure. But not just learning from it, but passing on that knowledge. Right? That's what made me want to teach this workshop, was to pass on knowledge. I've done a lot of student stuff. A lot. And a lot of it, I shouldn't have done. A lot of it I regret to a point, because, I regret what happened, but now I can speak about it and I can help other people. So with that being said, it's a life experience. I would prefer I wasn't as hard-headed and learned from other people than learning from myself, but shit happens. All right, but that's what I mean. The mentally prepare yourself is that never stop looking around. Don't put your head down. Keep it up and keep it on a swivel so that you can see what's going on around you and make sure that you can learn different things from different people. Because I guarantee you, if we spend enough time together, I'm going to learn a lot of things from each and every one of you. Because one thing that I learned, I'm not sure if it's actually in here, but whatever. One thing I learned is that each and every person has their own special characteristics. And what I may know from being a recovered alcoholic, I might be able to pass on to you. But maybe some of you, I'm horrible with English. I can't write to save a life. That's what I got a C+ in English. But maybe some of you can help me with, as a leader, I try to make it my job to raise everyone else and teach them everything that I know. Because if I teach them my experiences and they bring their experiences to the table too, if I teach them everything I know, they're gonna automatically be better than I am because I don't have their experiences as well. So teaching and learning from other people is how you become a better person. And understanding that, I think, is half the battle, really, when it comes down to it. Because if you have to resist the urge, and I'll raise my hand and say this, you have to resist the urge to be stubborn. And a lot of people are stubborn and just like, no, I know everything, and that's the way it is. Oh, shit. All right, I am the wisest man in the world, for I know one thing, and that is, I know nothing, is a quote by Socrates. I actually have it in the bottom of my email. And, that's one of the things that I live by, is accepting that there are things that you don't know, and that asking questions is how you figure it out. You can listen, but you also have to take that step forward in order to actually make sure that you understand it. Does that make sense? Cool. What else did I put on here? Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna talk about. Cool. So, who's ever heard of TED Talks? You like them? Really cool. Some of them are weird. Some of them are lame, but there are those who are pretty cool. There's one specifically that I learned about, and I also taught some of it when I was in the Marine Corps, and I actually I had to cut out a lot of it, and I gave a speech about it for public speaking when I had to take that class. Stress. Who thinks that stress is bad? Raise your hands. It's iffy? Stress. What if I told you that stress actually kills people? Yeah. But here's the thing, is that the reason stress actually kills people, it's not actually the stress's fault, it's the person's fault. And the reason I say that is because there are multiple studies done by multiple universities, and they found that if you actually believe that stress is bad, it actually becomes bad because your heart, your valve, your arteries start closing up, and your heart actually has to work more because you actually have the belief that stress is bad, and it increases your blood pressure, the chance of heart attack, and all sorts of other bad stuff. But if you believe that stress is good, it actually really doesn't affect you. I know that sounds crazy, so I'm gonna go in a little bit more detail. All right, when you undergo stress, when you're in a stressful situation, what happens to your body? Right, your heart beats faster. It does get hot. You start sweating. You start perspirating. Your pores open up. But what is it actually doing? Right, you start breathing faster. So your pores are opening up. So if your muscles work harder, then they can breathe. Right, your body can cool itself down. It's preparing for your body to cool itself down before you even do anything. All right, you're breathing faster, which means you're getting more oxygen in your muscles, which means you can actually do more physically. What about mentally? Getting more oxygen and blood flow to the brain because the heart's beating faster. So your brain is preparing to work faster too. Your body's prepared, your brain is prepared. Your body is ready to go to handle whatever the hell's put in front of you. How is stress a bad thing? Right? Now, who has ever felt sad? Who's ever heard of the hormone called oxytocin? What's oxytocin? What's oxytocin? It's nicknamed the cuddle hormone.
Oh, like isn't like a comfort hormone?
Yeah, it's a comfort hormone. You know, usually whenever you hug someone, it's released whenever you hug someone. Whenever you're empathetic, whenever you try and talk about what's going on internally, you try and let things out, or talk to someone else, or even listen to someone else. Whenever you're feeling empathy, it's released. Oxytocin is a stress hormone, believe it or not. And one of the benefits of oxytocin is that it actually helps repair some of the damage that's done by your heart beating faster when you're undergoing stress. So not only can you undergo stress and your body prepare you to handle it as a natural response, but if you talk about it to other people instead of not keeping it inside, it actually heals you and it makes you feel better. So what's the issue with stress? Exactly. You yourself are the issue with stress. They have done studies by multiple universities like Washington University, Buffalo. There's one other one. This is TED Talk. Pretty freaking awesome. All right. But what it does is it says all of these things. And I actually did the research, and I concurred with it. And that if you feel like they did a study of like 8,000 people or something like that, and then about 20 years later, they asked them a whole bunch of questions. About 20 years later, they looked up public death records to see who died, and they compiled their results. And they found that if you believed that stress was bad, you actually had like a 30% increase in dying. That put the belief that stress was bad as the top 15 cause of death in 2009 in the US. The belief that stress is bad. That's pretty profound. How you think about things dictates how you actually respond to them. It's like a placebo. Who knows what a placebo is? You don't know what a placebo is?
You want to not know what a placebo is?
What's a placebo?
Say you have a pill that kills you and a pill that doesn't.
Huh?
And you take the pill that doesn't, and you die anyway.
No.
I think it's the other way.
No.
It's like they tell you that it does something, but it really doesn't.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. But
Yeah. You got flipped.
No. Remember shit, what were they? They were like little bracelets that you put on, and that they're gonna make. Yeah, they make you stronger and smarter.